Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sacred Spaces. My name is Jennifer Dixon,
I'm Merritt Maloof Plumb.
and we are here to continue our discussion on yoga philosophy, specifically the Niyamas.
Yes, we are on the third Niyama
Oh my
today.
gosh. I'm glad you could keep track.
Tapas.
Tapas.
Yes.
Tapas, the tapas and then Svadhyaya, our next one, because I've been kind of studying them all together. They were hitting me here. They've been hitting me pretty hard. What about you?
I've had that experience as well. And I also feel like that because we've been taking this time for Svadhyaya, which we're going to talk about next week, self-study, that we're really reaching a very energetic spiritual place with the yamas and niyamas.
I agree. They're definitely spending all of this time meditating on it during my practice and just studying for these podcasts. It's I knew about the yamas and the niyamas, but I didn't. There's a difference between knowing somebody and knowing, like truly knowing, and I feel like we're getting the yamas and the niyamas are starting to integrate better. So I think that's pretty cool.
And yesterday I was so into my meditation on the study that I had done that I was thinking, okay, we've got to go more in depth on these in yoga teacher training. This needs to be like a full class on the curriculum, and like just really excited about what this means for the yoga journey, because the yamas and the niyamas are the first two limbs.
Exactly. I had the exact same thought, because there is a yoga school, a 200 and a 300 hour yoga school at Thrive Yoga and Wellness, where we are both affiliated. And with most schools, I know the school that I had, my 200 and 500, we talked about it, but it was like, I could answer some questions, but it didn't really move me the way that it's starting to move me now. And I agree that it's time for me to, looks like I have more homework, write some more curriculum for the school. And so you guys,
well, definitely. And I would love to help with that.
Ooh.
I would love to be involved with that, because we both come at this, like everything, from different places, and then we kind of find a nice middle ground. So I think that would be very important for students.
I agree. And so it's going to happen here in the next 4 to 6 weeks while I've got you trapped and you can't do much of anything else.
Yes. I know I'm going to have some guidance during my sabbatical that I'll be taking as to moving forward with my work. And, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but whatever it is,
I'm excited to see what comes.
But that was strong yesterday when I felt that we needed to bring that into,
I love it,
deeper into the curriculum.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So right now you may be wondering, if you've not seen any of our videos before, go ahead and hit subscribe. I never remember, is it down there or down there?
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there.
You know where it is.
Go ahead, hit subscribe. And you can also find this on all the major podcast platforms. Right now, you are probably seeing it either on YouTube or listening to it on any of the major podcasts. So definitely hit subscribe. But what we are doing in Sacred Spaces is diving a little deeper into the philosophy, the mythology, I like to sometimes call them the softer side of things, because most people, at least here in the West, we come to yoga from the physical standpoint. Some people do come from meditation, which is part of the practice, but a lot of people get into yoga because they want to do a handstand, or they want to put their leg behind their head. Listen, you never have to do either of those, and you can still practice yoga. You can still be a yogi.
As a matter of fact, my root career was recreational therapy, and I've been thinking about my work in physical and mental health rehabs. And, I have incorporated yoga into some of my treatment, but it's more of the things we're talking about. It's more the meditative aspects of yoga, but it's all connected. But you can do yoga if you can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
If you're on a breathing tube. There are ways that you can bring the yoga into your life and practice regardless of your your strength, your mobility,
your physical
capacity. There is a type of yoga for everyone.
I 100% agree, and yoga can meet you exactly
where you are.
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful reminder to all of us. And so what we're doing here on Sacred Spaces in this most recent mini-series is diving into the limbs of yoga. There are 8 limbs of yoga. That's where we get Ashtanga Yoga. Mm-hmm. And so there's 5 yamas, and we've already had the yama discussions. And if you hit subscribe, or if you go back into our channels, you should see them all. And then now the yamas are kind of like restraints, right? And that's a good way, like yogic restraints.
What not to do.
things that your life would improve if you did less of. Mm-hmm. And some of those include, practicing nonviolence and practicing truth and not hoarding things or being possessive and
non-stealing.
Yes, exactly. So just being at peace and at one with who you are right here, and not taking from others or injuring others. And so what we have started diving into now with the Niyamas, it's instead of like things that we want to limit, maybe it's things that we want to expand and grow in our lives.
Right.
And so we've covered Saucha, which was purity. We did that one a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And that's how we keep ourselves clean, like pure, not just, did I take a shower yesterday?
Our thoughts, our intentions, what we come to the mat with.
Yes.
Purity.
Yeah.
Because yoga creates purity. So the more pure of spirit and mind you come, the more purity the results are.
I agree. And then what was number 2?
Truth. Oh,
No, that was Satya from Niyamas.
Oh, so now we're on the Niyamas?
Yeah. Now we're talking about the Niyamas. So, anyways.
Anyway.
That just,
we got off the wavelength of each other there for a minute, so.
Throughout this journey, we have been following along. Among other things, there's a lot of resources you can find on YouTube, just go down the Google rabbit hole of Googling just the limbs of yoga, the yamas, the niyamas. But one of the resources that I have come back to over and over is the yamas and the niyamas, which I know is going to be backwards since I am showing you the camera to me. But it's by Deborah Adele, and I've loved it because she's able to break it down in such a, I hate to say modern way.
It's secular for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Like an easy to understand, makes it be something like pertainable to us now. And so today we are going to be talking about tapas. And that's not the little meals from Spain.
No.
Have you ever been to a tapas restaurant?
I have.
And I didn't know what it was the first time. It was really funny, and I was really angry because I was so hungry. And they would serve us, it's like little appetizers, and they would serve us these little bitty things. And I ended up I like to eat like 5 appetizers and spending so much money. I was really annoyed. So, anyways, this is not that. Merritt's like,
tapas.
Wrap it up.
It translates in the West as austerity or discipline. It's derived from the Sanskrit root tap. I'm going to have to put my glasses on to see this. Which means to burn. Tap means burn in Sanskrit. And it evokes a sense of fiery passion or fiery discipline. So.
I loved this one about the discipline because
I'm sure you loved it because you practice discipline.
In some ways, I'm very disciplined. This one hit me hard. Was it yesterday or the day before? Because I practice my yoga at least 5-6 days a week. And my yoga is the physical practice, and I try to end it with a meditation at the end. And so I feel like that discipline is there. However, sometimes it stays there on the mat. Does that make sense? And the whole point of the physical practice, and this is why this chapter got to me, the whole point of the physical practice is to get to the point where you can be in these asanas, these postures, and breathe, and you're cool with it. So, for example, in Ashtanga in the primary series, there's a really deep twist called Marichiyasana D. And it's kind of like, in college when you had Accounting 201, the weeding out class, like it's kind of like Ashtanga's weeding out pose, because it's hard. You're like twisting, you're in a half lotus, like it's hard. And when I first started, like, dude, I wanted to run and hide when it came to that. When I'd get my body in there and I'd have somebody assisting me and twisting me, and I thought, oh dear God, I simultaneously want to puke, go to the bathroom on myself, and punch somebody. But that was like 10 years ago. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. That just might be my personal opinion on some tough poses. But now, like yesterday in that pose, I just whipped myself into it, and I was like, da da da, here's 5 breaths. On the tighter side, I stayed 10 breaths. And it hit me like, this is the practice of tapas on a physical realm. There's a point to this story. However, when I put my son in the car seat, it was raining, and he's very particular. It was chillier yesterday, and he wanted his hoodie zipped up. And we were running late. I wanted to get the kid in the car seat so I could get out of the rain. And I was like, honey, I was losing my temper on him because I just wanted to get him in the car seat. You don't need your jacket zipped up. We're in the car. It doesn't matter. And yeah, can you tell I'm still working on my ability to breathe in these moments. And it hit me like this, like, Jennifer, how can you sit there and breathe in a pose that you used to want to like run, hide, kick, scream, hit people? How come you can breathe in that and you can't just zip your kid's jacket up? That hit me. What is all this physical practice if I can't take a second to, who cares if I'm going to be a little bit later? Who cares if I'm going to get a little bit more wet?
So you got there on your mat, but then you weren't able to bring it through that situation.
Exactly. Not intuitively. It wasn't a natural thing.
But you saw it after.
I did. And I stopped myself and I said, honey, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me zip it. And he was so sweet. You know, he's 2. He's like, thank you, Mama. Like, that's all he wanted, you know. But Deborah talked about that in the book, about how these monks practice severe austerities.
Yes.
There was an example of somebody in the middle of winter sitting outside, basically in a loincloth with a wet towel on his head, letting cold water drip down. I was like, oh, heck no, there's no austerity. There's none of that austerity practicing for me. And he does it to control himself in all situations.
But he also does it because of his self-discipline in being able to get down deeper than just what's happening to his body.
Oh, yes.
He has the self-discipline and has used the self-discipline to get himself in a place where that's not uncomfortable for him.
Imagine that. Imagine that
Please
self-discipline.
Please do, because, you know, this is the whole idea of cultivating the self through any practice, but especially into the deeper plane.
If I can't be comfortable getting wet and running a little bit late, there's the self-discipline I need to work on.
So those are all here as teachers for us.
Right?
Yes.
Right? And it's humbling. It's like a big taste or a big piece of humble pie, because I'm like, yeah, I can sit there and breathe in uncomfortable situations, but
then now that you've had that experience, take that back to the mat. And that's where the growth and the evolution come from.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you have to keep doing it. That's why...
and even when you use the word have to, you know, I remember when I was younger and I was really into working out, I was so disciplined. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day and went. And like, now it's real easy for me to be like, oh, I just kind of want to stay in bed. You know, this one's a struggle for me. But when I was doing that, it was because I had that burn. I had that want. I loved the way I felt. Mm-hmm. Loved the way I looked. I was very more superficial about it then than I would be now. Now it would be for the evolution of my mind, body, and spirit, and the unity, which is what yoga is. But, you know, I've struggled with self-discipline.
I think that's a big deal for all humans, right? Because, let's be honest, self-discipline is work.
But the days that I do get up and I get my routine done in a way that I can really do a full practice, because I always do something, you know, either a little Tai Chi, Qigong, or yoga. but it's not a full practice. I don't really delve into it. When I do get up and practice that and have the yearning for that, that is tapas in work.
Beautiful. It is. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't just have to be the physical austerities.
No.
No. Just like the monks we talked about, they sat, that's kind of a physical austerity, but it's the self-discipline to meditate, to do these things for purification. Like that, all of it is self-discipline. To not eat the cake. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole idea is to keep the fire of yoga, of the kundalini, of whatever practice. It comes through heat. And so, if you think about a campfire, if you don't build it just right, it's going to go out. If you put too much on it, it's going to just go out of control. Mm-hmm. So there's an art to keeping the fire, and once you get it going, you can put anything on it. You can even put a wet log on it, and it'll purify. Like it'll burn through the wetness, and it'll burn if you have that core fire going.
No, I think that's beautiful.
And so I'm using this, there's a fire in yoga that you want to keep at a consistent temperature. And when you do, if you go off, if you eat something really bad, ideally that fire will purify it. So that's the importance of tapas too. It's all about the fire, and keeping the fire is the discipline and the passion and the want. And, it keeps you healthy, and it keeps your chakras flowing. And
oh yeah, well, in yoga the fire is called Agni, right? Agni. And that's what purifies you.
We've talked about Agni.
Yeah, but on the flip side, and I loved how you use that expression of fire could be too big, because there are, when you have too much self-discipline, it can suck the life out of you. If you're spending so much time on the mat, or so much time in the gym, for those of you that don't do the asana practice, or so much time. I knew a fella whose marriage life was suffering because he was trying to get his 90-minute meditation practice and then a 75-minute asana practice, and his wife's like, when are you going to do the laundry? You know what I mean? And so there's a point where that fire's too much, and you have to be here and be present, practicing that presence and being content. Santosha, that was the number 2 niyama, the practice that you have.
That randomly reminded me of a story one time about a man who had gone to India and just really immersed himself in the culture and satsang and the spirituality, and he was there for like a year. And so he went home, and a couple of years later, somebody that he was in the satsang with in India saw him, and he was living, in this like spiritual community, and he was like, oh, what happened to you? Where's your wife? And he was like, oh, yes, no, I couldn't do my work and be married and have children, so I moved to the mountain. And the guy was like, no, that's wrong. Yeah. And I think the guy that ran into him was like his guru or something. Yeah. And, he was like, you take that with you into your life.
Yep, you don't leave it.
And so, so self-discipline and the fire can take you another way, and it will burn other areas of your life that feed you, and it'll also burn you out.
It can. Mm-hmm.
But again, if you do that consistent, you're working the yamas, you're doing the physical practice, you're taking the philosophies and the sacred text to the mat, then you'll find the perfect balance for you. And it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. It is. It really is. And I loved the story that you brought in, how his guru said, you have to take it with you where you are. It doesn't mean you... Yeah, there are monks that go and live in the Himalayas, and the Mahabharata, which is an ancient Indian epic that we talked about some on this podcast. Towards the very end, the king is actually told he needs to leave. He needs to abdicate the throne, because he was too comfortable he was fat, he was eating all the goodness, he wasn't practicing any austerities. And the only way in the Mahabharata for them to get to a higher level in the afterlife was to have these practices. And so he and his wife followed him. They went and they left everything, left a new king in charge, and started practicing austerities. And so, but he didn't do that until his work was done. You know, all of the his honestly, that guy's, all of his sons were dead, but you'll have to read the story for that. But he didn't leave everybody in the lurches. It was when his time was up. Like, so when the kids had left the nest, when all of your other stuff is done, that's when you can go off into the mountains if you want to.
And I like to make that point to you mothers with young kids a lot, because, you know, one of my clients yesterday is just kind of overwhelmed with all her littles, and I said, you're going to be sitting here like me one day, and those days will be gone, and it's going to feel like a flash.
Yep.
So yes, be where you are, bring your practice to the life you've created, and let that self-discipline, that awareness move you in all situations. Bring that presence to everything.
Bring that self-discipline to every aspect of your life, whether it's breathing in an uncomfortable pose, whether it's slowing down when you're in a rush, whether it's not eating the extra cookie. Just practice. Take a second to practice that self-discipline, those tapas, and see what happens. Don't, like, guilt, I think, is a Western thing. Like, I there's a lot of guilt there. They call it, like, Catholic and Jewish mom guilt and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that's really, Manju actually says that. Guilt is in the West. There's no guilt in the East. If you screw up, if you eat too many cookies, crap, I did it. Don't berate yourself and be like, forget it all, I'm never doing it again, just give me the donuts.
Yes.
Instead, okay, I ate too much, not going to do that again, and then go on.
I'm going to practice my tapas and get my fire burning and move on. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's true. Guilt is an epidemic here.
So don't let that happen to you.
Yeah.
Just keep practicing. Keep that self-discipline, that tapas.
Keep the energy flowing back and forth.
Yeah. Have we forgotten anything? I know we went on some tangents.
We did go on some tangents, but I think they were all relevant. We'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are about tapas and your journey with self-discipline. As I said, this is one I struggle with, and we would love to have you at the studio.
Thrive Yoga and Wellness.
With us. Well, I'll help you work on the guilt. Releasing the guilt through meditation.
Release it.
She'll help you release it through physical practice.
We'll both be working on both parts. We have lectures.
Yes, and we also have Thrive Online. If you're not local, we'd love to have you join us there, or on any of our forums.
Yes.
We just appreciate you being with us, and we love hearing your thoughts and exploring these ideas with you.
We can't wait to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.